In Tally Youngblood's world, there's no violence, no racism, no poverty. It's a high-tech paradise where your only responsibility is to have fun and be beautiful. At least once you turn 16, which is when you undergo a government-mandated plastic surgery to make your face symmetrical, your eyes big and bright, your body perfect. That's when you go from an ugly to a pretty. As Tally's 16th birthday quickly approaches, she's confronted with reality she never wanted. The dark underbelly of the society she lives in, the sinister truth behind the compulsory operation, and what it means to choose. That's the premise of today's Velshi Band Book Club feature, Uglies, by Scott Westerfeld. Written with vivid sensory description, Westerfeld masterfully creates an immersive world that is every bit as sinister as it is beautiful. Although Uglies is told to us exclusively in third person through our protagonist, Tally, the world around her is so fleshed out, the scope feels wider. For much of the book, Tally lacks the strength, confidence, and selflessness typical of a heroine. Tally is not Katniss from The Hunger Games, nor Jonas from The Giver. She's a normal teenage girl, reluctant to challenge the world around her and dedicated to her friends. Her moral growth and call to action begins as subtle. The result feels fresh, accessible, and is highly successful. Initially published in 2005, Uglies has since become a cult classic, beloved by readers for generations. The themes the book grapples with have only become more relevant, more timely, and more present in the years since then, particularly the idea of beauty. Since 2005, beauty and what society demands of it has entirely changed. Even the idea of beauty is more fluid and ever-changing than it's ever been. There's one particularly prescient moment when Tally shows her best friend, Shay, her Morpho, which is essentially an AI-driven filter that shows uglies what they're going to look like after surgery. Quote, "Here's option 2. Tally touched her interface ring and the wall screen changed. This Tally was sleek with ultra-high cheekbones, deep green cat-like eyes, and a wide mouth that curled into a knowing smile. That's pretty different. Yeah, I doubt it's even legal." Tally tweaked the eye shape parameters, pulling the arch of the eyebrow down to almost normal. The next Tally was a much more standard morphological model with almond-shaped brown eyes, straight black hair, with long bangs and dark lips set to maximum fullness, end quote. Although the stakes are much higher for Tally and her friends, what they face within this society, choosing individuality over conformity, self-love, the realities of friendship and loyalty, identity, autonomy, and what authority truly means, isn't much different than what teenage girls face today. And yet, Uglies was removed from library circulation in Madison County, Mississippi for so-called mature content, end quote. Dystopian novels like The Giver, 1984, and Uglies exist in a legacy of book bans and challenges. These books force their readers to confront the worst-case scenario and critically consider the realities of what that might look like. I guess for parents and school board members in Mississippi, that is unacceptable. After a quick break, I'll be joined by Scott Westerfeld, the award-winning New York Times best-selling author of numerous young adult books, including today's Velshi Band Book Club feature, Uglies. Today's session of the Velshi Band Book Club is officially underway. I'm joined by the award-winning young adult author, Scott Westerfeld. He's the author of numerous novels, including today's Velshi Band Book Club feature, Uglies. Scott, great to see you. Thank you for being with us.
It's great to be here.
Are you at all amazed, interested, surprised at the fact that anyone's challenging this book or has challenged it in the past?
No, I mean, my books are all about the necessary confrontations with authority that teenagers all have.
Right.
And, you know, it's a part of your life where you're trying to figure out which rules are important and which rules aren't. Because that's one thing, you know, when you're a little kid, you get lots of rules.
Yes.
But soon enough, you realize that some of them are just made up, and some of them will save your life.
Right.
And as a teenager, you start pushing those boundaries and trying to figure out which ones are real and which ones aren't, which is sometimes dangerous, but it's really important to your formation as a human being.
Any good reason why that should be classified as mature content or kept away from young people?
Well, it is mature content, but these are people who are trying to get mature.
Right.
Like, it is what they're doing. It's the safest place for them to explore these ideas is in a book rather than in real life by driving too fast or not putting on their seatbelts.
To test if those rules are important. In the book, at the start of the book, in fact, Tally sneaks into New Pretty Town to try and find her friend. Let me read from it. It says, the party towers were already lit up. The snakes of burning torches marked flickering pathways through the pleasure gardens. A few hot air balloons pulled at their tethers against the darkening pink sky, their passengers shooting safety fireworks at other balloons and passing parasailers. Safety fireworks are one of a number of different symbols that underscore superficiality, things that look beautiful and have no particular substance. Tell me more about this idea.
Yeah, throughout the book, fireworks are one of those things that are kind of useless.
Yes.
But everybody loves them.
Yeah.
And I think that is a characteristic of beauty in general. We all want things that are beautiful in our life, whether or not they serve a particular function. And people are like that too. Like we like pretty people. We like beautiful faces. We like elegant things around us. And that's a real, that's an important part of being a human, making beauty. But requiring other people to be beautiful and saying that you owe me beauty and you owe me a certain kind of face and a certain kind of look or a certain kind of body is where that goes awry.
One of the things that we mentioned in the intro is the morphos, the technology that allows uglies to experiment with how they're going to look after their surgery. The book was published in 2005. The stuff you wrote about then was almost fantasy. Now it's real. Now we have this AI that can show you what you will look like before and after surgery. Tell me about how this book has grown into its time.
When I was writing about it, it was because I knew some teenage girls who were getting plastic surgery when they were 17 or 16. And I was like, maybe you're going to have a different opinion about that nose when you get older. Maybe you should wait a minute. So it was very much about plastic surgery when I wrote it. But of course now the universe has caught up to it.
Right.
And the world we live in is one where we all think about how we could change our face every day. Everyone who's on Instagram, everyone who's on any social media platform is using Facetune and filters.
Yep.
And is changing themselves. And it's all about making a decision about your face, which is something we didn't have to do for a long time.
Yeah, but you're right. It's much more present than it ever was before, because either we're using these social media applications or we're on Zoom or Teams calls with everyone. So you're staring at your face in a way that we certainly went when we were growing up. When we were growing up, if I didn't see a mirror, I wasn't looking at my face.
That's a good point. Zoom is so strange because you never look at the person you're talking to. You look at your own face.
Yes.
You worry about your own background. Did I put the right bookshelves behind me? And we all have our own TV channel.
Yeah.
And that concern with appearances and with surface, and particularly with surfaces on screens, everyone's got a rectangle in their life that they've got to impress today.
One of the interesting things about this book, which is central to it, is friendship and loyalty. Talk to me about that within the context of a dystopian book.
When I was young, I hung out with older kids in high school, and then they all graduated, and I was sort of left alone. And that's what happens with Tally at the beginning of Uglies, is that her friends have all turned 16, and she's kind of left alone, and she meets somebody who has the exact same birthday as her. And they are like, well, we'll never leave each other. We'll become pretty on the same day. We'll go through every stage of life on the same day. So they decide we have to be fast friends forever. And I think that's that's a super recognizable thing to kids these days. Like sometimes your friends leave you.
Yeah.
They get mature faster than you, or they just go to college.
But in this particular dystopian context, the friend who shares your birthday, you and that person are going to have a lot in common.
Well, what happens is when you turn pretty, it's not just an operation that makes you beautiful. It turns you into an adult. It turns you into somebody whose ideas are worth listening to, whose voice is important. You become a real person, whereas before then you're just an ugly.
One of the things, we tend to concentrate on the books here, but a lot of books are made into movies, as this has been. In the movie, books are banned.
Yes.
They are somewhat present in the book. Why the change?
Well, we thought that because, books are being banned all over the United States, so we're sort of updating we're updating the movie to be a little bit more like the present. And also, there's the set where they go when she runs away from the city, not to spoil too much, and she finds herself in nature, and she realizes the most important thing about the natural world is that it doesn't need an operation to be beautiful. It's just beautiful the way it is. And we're part of the natural world too. So how come a sunset and a tree in fall can be beautiful without any help? And we need filters and surgery and makeup and so Walden Pond was such a perfect example of that, of finding beauty, finding yourself in nature. We thought that we'd just add that as a banned book in the future.
Scott, thank you for writing the book and for joining us and for becoming a member of the Velshi Band Book Club.
Thank you.
Scott Westerfeld is the newest member of the Velshi Band Book Club. He's an author of numerous books, including today's feature, Uglies.